Okay.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Okay. Today we're going to be talking about some health and wellness topics. And so what this is going to be dedicated to is just a little bit of an introduction into the health and wellness component. And we're going to talk a little bit about a whole person approach and then some well-being concepts that you will definitely need to know as you are preparing for the national exam. Okay, so first things first, we need to understand our role. And this is something that we have talked about over and over again. However, just as a reminder, we are not the content experts in health or disease. And again, a lot of times they come to us thinking that we are. And so it is not our role to diagnose, prescribe. If we have credentials in another area, so if you are a dietitian and you remove that health coaching hat and are practicing as a dietitian, then absolutely that is within your scope of practice. However, as a general health coach, it is not our role to diagnose, prescribe, dig into any of those things. We are only here to provide resources when asked. However, with that being said, we should have a solid working knowledge of what is currently evidence-based out there. And generally, our recommendations are going to come from those agencies that are put out by public health groups. So we're talking
CDC,
World Health, Harvard Health. Those types of websites are going to be a very safe place to provide recommendations when we're approached with clients who are interested in learning a little more about what are those recommendations that are out there. Okay, so understanding your role. So what is it that we are going to do? So we really should be able to identify those risk factors, particularly when we have people coming to us and, we need to understand what is an A1C and where does an A1C fall when it's hitting kind of outside of normal limits and all of those things. So those biometric screening measures, we want to be familiar with those. Blood pressures, cholesterol, all of those general things that are really impactful of where we stand with our health. We do need to know what those are and have an understanding of how those have an impact on our overall health. Yeah. And then we want to have the lifestyle recommendations that come with moving the needle on some of those biometrics.
Yeah, you're going to have clients who will come with their medical records in hand or have them sent to you from their medical providers. And that there is going to be the expectation you can read those and you know where your client stands, whether they're within normal range or above or below, whatever. So you definitely need to understand those. And we will go through all of those over the next several Beth and Ray's show. I can't help but want to call it that.
An upcoming episode, we will tackle all of those.
We'll tackle all of those. So we're going to give you all of the ones that the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching recommends that you know and understand, and that you will be tested for on the National Certifying Examination. So you'll get all of those here.
Yes, yes. So we want to understand what those are when they fall outside of normal limits. And we also want to have an awareness of what our client knows and maybe what they need to know. Right. It's interesting because you'll have clients that come in and they know that they have a diabetic A1C, yet they're talking about some changes they've made, and then, sugar isn't even on their radar of some of the things that they're paying attention to. So you see the gamut in what the client understands as far as some of those markers that they may be concerned with, yet some of the behavior changes aren't necessarily matching up. And so it's our job to kind of step in. Well, what do you know about diabetes? What do you know about sugar and how it affects our body, so that we really can get everybody on the same page with, okay, here's what's going to be helpful in us moving forward. Certainly we want to recognize if there are any major medical red flags. If you're having a discussion on blood pressure and they're telling you this blood pressure that's outrageous and that they are just suffering from incredible headaches. We really need to have an understanding of those side effects that come with some of these things so that we know, hey, it's going to be necessary. Let's get you into the physician. We need to have a referral here. And so we need to know how to refer and what that looks like so that when we do have some of those things that may crop up, we have a nice care path in place of where we can send them and how we can get them in as quickly as possible.
Yeah, as a coach, I like to keep a sort of a set of referral resources, other professionals who I can refer to comfortably and confidently.
Yes.
When that's necessary.
Yes.
Something that's probably more local to your area is something you'll want to develop. Another thing that this makes me think of is I have learned a lot myself. But I was a little nervous at first, like there's so much about health and wellness that I don't know, especially medical type stuff. And I was a little worried, like, will I be able to? But I have learned a lot because you will have clients come to you, like I didn't know anything about blood calcium levels and stuff. And I had a client send me their whole screening and everything. This was something that they were working on and were coming to me to work on. So I want to assure you, you'll have some time to do the research you need to do if they're coming to you with something that is not part of the National Board's set of things you need to know. You'll have time to do the research, but be prepared as a new coach to spend more time doing this type of work and educating yourself in areas that you didn't even imagine you might be working with someone on. And you don't need to be the expert.
Yes.
You don't have to know all the ins and outs of it, but you do want to have some basic understanding of where they fall and symptoms, and in case they ask you for resources, you have some credible, reliable places to send them for resources.
Right. And even just for empathy alone, a lot of times I find myself researching of just, gosh,
that's a good point.
I don't know enough about this. I don't even know that I have an understanding of how it's impacting them and how does it look. And so you will find that there's some that land, and it's kind of fun. It's like, okay.
I love learning this kind of stuff anyway. And I think most anybody who's in health and wellness coaching does.
I think so too.
Yeah. But it just plan on it taking a little bit of your time outside of coaching a client.
To dig in a little. Yes. Okay, which is a perfect segue into continuing education.
I didn't even realize.
We teed that up perfectly. Look at us. So it is, as a health coach, it really is our duty to be aware of the current trends, the controversies. Oh my gosh, the world of diet and exercise. Someone has an argument at all times for this and this. And, we do want to make sure that we're aware of those current trends, particularly some of those trends that may not be the best idea. It's amazing what TikTok puts out there. I've had more people come to me. Well, I saw this on TikTok, and I'm thinking, I don't even have TikTok, but fill me in. What does that look like?
Right.
So, sometimes the trends are positive, yet sometimes we do want to have on our radar those red flags. So like, this is maybe not one we want to try.
Maybe TikTok is not science-based.
I don't know.
Maybe some stuff on TikTok is, and some is not.
And some may not be, yes. Yeah. But we do want to be up to date on just, what is the current research? What are we learning? What do we know now about these different areas? And we do have to have continuing education as part of our National Board certification. So just keep that in mind too, as we're, moving forward, then we will have to have formal education. Yet we do want to make sure that we really are following the current trends and the evidence that's coming out of different things so that we do have a good understanding of where we stand. So a general knowledge of healthy living really is required of us, because that way we can facilitate moving in positive directions versus maybe following some of the TikTok trends that are out there.
Right.
There may be some good ones out there. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't have TikTok either. I've heard of it.
Ask my daughter. She'll fill us in. Okay, so that brings us to some of the websites. When we were referring before to, some of that public information that's out there, these are the websites that we can refer our patients to pretty comfortably that the NBHWC recommends that we use as kind of our guiding principles when we are providing resources. And again, so that looks like the CDC. There's a Healthy People, and actually there's now Healthy People 2030 that just came out. And that's just at healthypeople.gov. And there's all sorts of information in this document, and it's certainly something that you want to take some time to read over and go through and know that it's out there. And it takes a very holistic approach, so it digs into a lot of different things. American College of Lifestyle Medicine is a credible website. NIH. Choose My Plate, this is a big one, and this one you guys need to know, and we actually have a slide dedicated to this, so we'll dig into Choose My Plate.
NIH is National Institute for Health, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so what do we need to know about health and well-being? First of all, we have an understanding that, being healthy is more than just the absence of disease. So when we think about being healthy, there's really this whole other spectrum beyond being healthy that we really can build upon our well-being and really kind of shift into that just truly thriving. So it's this spectrum that steps way beyond just, oh, well, I'm not sick. And again, when we think about well-being, it includes everything. It's our physical, our psychological, our spiritual, our social well-being. It's multidimensional and it's holistic. So it's all of those areas. When we talk about the wellness wheel, this is what we're talking about. Well-being is really encompassed in all of these different dimensions. And wellness is self-directed. We maybe have heard that a time or two before. And it is an evolving process, so it is something that we are constantly kind of going back and checking in on ourselves and like, okay, what does this look like? What does this look like here? And so that's where, as health coaches, we really do emphasize that whole person perspective, because we understand that it is far beyond just diet and exercise. It is all of these dimensions that are tying in and making us who we are. Yes. Okay, so what actually determines your health? This is just a fun little slide we like to throw up there, because it can be a bit misconception kind of out there in the world of like, oh, well, everyone in my, family has a heart attack. I'm going to die of a heart attack. And really what we know is that our lifestyle choices are over 50% of what determines what's going to happen to us and what our health looks like. So yes, genetics do play a role. It's really only about 16%. And then the amount of medical care that we put into that plays a role. And certainly our environment plays a role to some degree.
Sure. Social determinants, yes.
Yes, exactly. And even if we are living over soil that is someone's, if we've got a lot of poison in our soil and we have a garden, our environment can impact us, certainly. And definitely the world of epigenetics is taking a big toll, which really kind of then creeps into lifestyle almost. So, but the bottom line is we have control. One of my favorite sayings is, we may all hold the gun, but our lifestyles would actually pull the trigger. So everyone has their own gun, and we all kind of have our array of what may happen, yet what we choose to do day in and day out is what's going to actually turn off or on some of those things that our genes may be telling our bodies to do one way or another. So
it makes me think about that case. I don't even know where I read about this, or maybe you told me about it, about the case with a nun who had Alzheimer's in her family. She lived to be 90-some years old and gave her body over to science. And when they looked at her brain, it was completely full of I forget what they're called, the amyloids or whatever it's called,
Yep.
for Alzheimer's. But her brain, her lifestyle was, she ate well, she exercised, she slept, she took care of her whole wheel. And even in her 90s, with a brain that just looked riddled with Alzheimer's, her brain had developed neural pathways around those areas.
How cool.
And she has shown no indicators of Alzheimer's her entire life.
Wow.
So even though it was there for her genetics, her heredity, she avoided it with her lifestyle.
That's amazing.
It's an amazing case. I can't remember now where I read it, but
it's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like as health coaches, we really do need to make it our mission to get the word out. That I feel like people really do. We kind of, for whatever reason, when it comes to health and well-being, we kind of stay in, this like closed mindset, versus, wow, we have the opportunity, it's the one place where if we ever had a growth mindset, this would be where it is. And we tend to all just kind of, oh, well, that's my destiny. And so I do feel like we as health coaches, as a profession, we have such an opportunity to spread the word of like, hey, what we do matters.
Yes.
And we can make such an impact on our overall well-being.
Yeah.
We just need to understand it. A lot of times we just don't know that, oh, well, I never knew sleep had that big of an impact on my health. And so we have a really cool opportunity to get out there and let people know, hey, just because you have X, Y, or Z does not mean that is even anywhere close to being your destiny.
Right.
We can do this. Absolutely can.
Yeah, there's so much research now going on too
Yes.
to prove that we can alter our genes.
Yeah, we can. I know, it's so cool.
It's so amazing.
Oh,
yeah.
it's so amazing. It is. So, and we get to be a part of it. It's
I know.
really cool.
Exciting.
Really fun. Okay. So let's dig a little bit into the whole person approach to wellness, which we have talked already about a lot. Yet this is something that you will see again on the national board. So we like to highlight it in the health and wellness spot, as well as when we're talking about the coaching process. So here's our lovely wheel, which you guys have seen over and over again. But again, it just emphasizes that it's more than just movement and nutrition. There's a lot of strings tying into what our well-being looks like. There are so many out there. And again, you guys can create your own, particularly with the type of clients that you're working with. You may find that one wheel resonates with you more than another, and that's great. So there's all sorts of different wheels. So we just threw a few wheels in there just to kind of give you an idea of like, they all look kind of different, but they're all saying the same thing. Yeah. It's all important. It all matters is the bottom line.
Whole picture.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so that brings us to some common assessments. I really don't use a whole lot of assessments when I'm coaching other than the wellness wheel. However, depending on, again, the setting that you're in or the personality that you have in front of you, some people like to do assessments and learn more about themselves. So these are just some that are listed. I think these are in the Meg Jordan book. Isn't it the Meg Jordan book where the assessments are? So we just wanted to throw a few in just so that you can kind of, take a peek at what they're called. If you want to learn a little bit more about some of these, then you can dig in a little deeper. But these are just some of the more common personality assessments. There's quality of life. There's all sorts of things in here that you can kind of, if you're interested in maybe administering some, you can look into them.
Yeah, and if you get a job working for someone else, company or whatever, insurance company or university, some of those tend to they'll use the same ones. Like they want their coaches to all give the Myers-Briggs or the whatever to their clients. And so you may need to.
You may inherit some.
Right. That's the word. You may inherit some.
You may.
Even if you yourself
may
are not.
Yes. Okay. So this picture, we're going to let it sit for a little while because this is a really important one. So this is the illness wellness continuum. And basically what this is this is a diagram that really emphasizes when we talk about wellness going beyond just not being sick. That is what this is digging into. And so if you notice, you've got two sides of this diagram here. And so neutral is what's in the middle. Neutral is like, okay, I don't have really any diagnoses. I'm not, I'm good. I'm all good. Well, what we see over into that blue area is that, well, we don't really have to stop there. We can keep going and we can really improve our level of wellness. And so as you kind of shift to the left, this is when you start to see us getting sicker and we're shifting more into that treatment. Okay, now we need to step in and have somebody, we've got a physician on board at this point. And your overall well-being is really kind of all of it together. And then, it just emphasizes, hey, it doesn't have to end just because we're not sick, basically.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I had 3 questions on the Travis Illness Wellness Continuum on my national board exam.
You're going to have some questions about this, and I'm pretty sure the next slide just talks a little bit about it. So John Travis is the one who developed this. Again, you don't have to know his name. But basically, the treatment, if we're only treating, it only gets us to a certain point. And that's kind of what he's bringing to light with this diagram, is that it really encourages you to keep going. We can always do better. Yeah. And so let's just keep going, keep feeling better. And so when we start thinking about, okay, well, what does that look like? What comes into keeping going? Well, that's when we start talking about, what are we doing for self-care? How well are we regulating our emotions? What do we know about our emotions? Are we stimulating our mind? We are. We're all reading about all our all our clients that are bringing in all our new things.
the new labs we've never seen. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, but just like when we talk about with that wellness wheel, where do we stand intellectually? Are we, keeping our brain busy? What are our social ties? Are we building new relationships? How are we fostering those relationships? And so it really is just paying attention to all the strings on that wheel of what, how they are. So it's not necessarily where you are on the continuum that matters. What matters is the direction that you're moving.
That's right.
So we want to be moving
to the right.
We want to be shifting over to the right. We want to get into that high level wellness here. And it seems like my question, and this website that's on this slide right here, this is the actual reference that will take you to this, and it has a nice description of this continuum. And so this is a good pop on this website and just read a little bit about it when you're preparing for the exam, because it'll give you a nice description of what everything is. But I know I had a question that was like, hey, which side of the arrow is which? And so just be familiar with this, because you will definitely see this again. So this is an important one. But again, refer to the wellspring.com website, and it has a great description of what this is. And that is going to finish this episode.
Oh, this is a short one.
This is a short one. I know. So these are just kind of the little outliers within health and wellness that are important enough to re-emphasize, so that way you guys have heard it, seen it as you sit down to prepare for the exam.
Stay tuned for the next episode.
Stay tuned, and as always, if you have questions, do not be afraid to reach out.
Call Beth.
We are always here for you, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. Or even if you want to just dig a little deeper into any of the things we talked about. Most of today we've already talked about, but certainly let us know. Okay, we'll see you in the next episode.